Let's talk a little bit about silk screens. And what is a silk screen? What do you do with it? How do you use it? And what are they for? Well, this is a light switch cover that I do have a video on that I made. And the music notes in the background on a Skinner blend are from a silk screen. And I just used acrylic black paint, just cheap paint on it. And silk screen that I used, it's music notes. And where you see the white on your silk screen, or the transparency actually, I just have it on a piece of white styrofoam to show you, is where your black paint shows up on your project or whatever color of paint. Let's talk about the difference between a stencil and a silk screen. A stencil you can also use with polymer clay. Most of them are a plastic type material, and you can roll your clay out and press your stencil down. I've done several frogs and turtles and things, and get your outline of your item, like the outline of this frog, or the word hop, or the turtle, or different designs in this case. This is another one. And where your empty spots are is where your paint, or I prefer mica powders when I'm using stencils, that's where they show up. But the only detail you get from them is what the outline is, whether it's an arrow, or a lightning bolt, or a circle. If you want those things, the stars, whatever, on your piece, then stencils are good to use. They're also good for cutting out design for earrings or for a pendant or something. Some of these on here, I've made a turtle pendant from this one. I've made a frog pendant, and I've used them in other designs, but they're definitely not a silk screen. A silk screen, let me find a new one. Here it is. These silk screens are made by Mari Joy Coleman at ojoycreations.com. And they're really good silk screens, but you have to take care of silk screens. They will last forever, but you have to watch what you're doing. This is a small heart of smaller music notes. So the difference between this silk screen and this silk screen, even though they're both music notes, you're going to get different sizes. I mean, that's just whatever your clear part is. And these are a mesh that's cut out. These are not easy to make, believe me, I tried. And I decided it wasn't worth my time. I would just buy the beautiful ones that are out there. Here's a butterfly one, and I'm going to show you how to use this one in a minute. Most silk screens come with a plastic backing on them. And we're going to pull that off in a minute because you can't use it without it. And I save my plastic backing. And after I wash my silk screen, let it dry flat, I lay that plastic backing on the back of it. It doesn't stick to it, just to keep them separated. I have a drawer with a little basket in it that has all of my silk screens in it, my paints, my scrapers, whatever I'm going to use. Here's another floral design. This is one of Mari Joy's. This is real pretty. This is like flower mandala type things. This is real pretty. And this one is made by Mari Joy, but it was a design that Teresa Salgado's son made. He's a tattoo artist. He drew up the design for Teresa, and Mari Joy made the silk screen for Teresa. These come in different sizes. There's 3 different sizes. There's even a long stretched out version that's gorgeous for a bracelet or a cuff or bangle, whatever. Or a long piece going around the box. I mean, they come in different styles and different shapes and different sizes. Now when you get your silk screen, most of them are going to have a plastic backing that's stuck to them, and you have to peel it off. And the sticky slick side is what you put down on your clay. Immediately after you use it, have standing by a container of warm water with some sort of liquid soap in it, and instantly put that silk screen into your warm water. Even if it's going to sit there for a little while, that's okay. It just won't allow the paint to dry within the mesh and ruin your design. After you get it out of your bowl, take it to your sink and rinse it out with warm water and clean it up. And if anything sticks to it at all, I use a soft toothbrush and clean them up. And then I lay them out flat on a paper towel and let them dry before I do anything else with them. Even if I'm doing them in between, like if I'm going to use this one twice, even in the same project, I will use it and clean it, let it dry, and then use it again. If you try to use it while there's wet paint on there, 90% of the time it's going to mess up the design. So what do you silk screen with? Well, there's scrapers that you can get. But I also like to cut up old credit cards, debit cards, gift cards, whatever. They're no good any longer. And I cut them in different sizes. Say for instance, I just want to do this one butterfly right here on something. Let me zoom in a little. If I want to do this one butterfly right here, and that's the only butterfly I want to do on this whole silk screen, I can do that. I just have to have something smaller to spread the paint with. This one's even too large. So I would go down to a smaller size. I have sizes in between that I just cut up, and that way I can just spread the paint on that one butterfly, because more than likely, if that's the one you're using and it's in the center of your silk screen, you're going to have clay sitting around it, and you don't want that paint to come out on any of the other butterfly wings and get on your clay. So that's why I like to cut things up. They're flexible enough to bend, but they're sturdy enough to hold up. And you can cut the size you need. So let me get some clay down here and I'll show you how to silk screen. Okay, I have my, this is white Primo. It's conditioned and it's rolled out on a number 5. You can roll it out however thick or thin you want. That doesn't matter with silk screening. But I want to cover this little wooden box. That's my gold with this piece. So I thought I'd do the butterflies on top. And I'd do that floral around the sides, possibly in a different color of clay. have to take the box apart and sand it and all that. We'll get to that project later. I don't know if you can see it or not. Yeah, you can maybe. I took my box lid and I drew my lines on here just with a dull little tool to give me the impression of where that box lid is, so I will know how I want my silk screen to go. Now I'll also peel off the backing, and one thing that's real important is you do not get air bubbles trapped between your clay and your surface that you're working on, number one, and your clay and your silk screen. This is the shiny side, so it's going down first. And right here is about the center of my box lid. So let's make sure that it is all lined up. We'll rub it in with my fingers first, just like you're burnishing something. And I'm going to take my card and go over it at an angle, just to make sure that there's no air under there and the paint can get through there. See, there was a bubble right there. And if you start from the center and work out, you'll get them all worked out. Because where the silk screen doesn't touch your clay, you're not going to get your design. And silk screening is a good way to get a really neat, cool looking design without a lot of problems. You do have to seal it afterwards. And what you choose to seal it with, that's up to you. I either do magic gloss for a doming effect, deep shine for a on a flat surface, but I still want that resin look, deep shine UV finish. Or if it's a matte that I'm looking for, a matte finish, I use super matte shine free sealer, and all of those you can get at tinypandora.com. So she actually has all of her UV resin products in a kit together: the light, the magic gloss, the deep shine, and the utensils you need to use them, or you can buy them separately. So now let me go get my warm water in my bowl before I get this started, and then we'll continue on. Okay, I got my warm water in my bowl. I like warm water. I feel like hot water or cold water actually speeds up the drying process, and the paint will dry on your silk screens faster. But warm water works, so I like to get it fresh. I'm using just a cheap acrylic paint. The only paint that I've had trouble with is I had a pearl white clay and used a Artist Loft, I think was the brand name, metallic black paint to silk screen, and it was like between the metallics in the pearl clay and the metallics in the paint, they didn't want to dry really well. So if I had to manipulate anything after my silk screen dried, it smeared. So you can't correct the smear, but you can use the paint again. It doesn't take as much paint to silk screen as people think it does. And always have a paper towel or a baby wipe or something around handy. so you can wipe off your tool or anything you need cleaned up real quick. And just take at a 45-degree angle or so. I don't go straight down on it. And there's a little lump of clay in there I went out of there. Paint. And just go over your design. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. You want to make sure all your space is covered. If I left any white space, then that design wouldn't be there. And you want your full design on a silk screen. And just make sure that it's gone down through your design where you need it to be. And I've got another little clump of paint there. I'm just going to add a dab more paint so I get these edges. Because I'm not sure how far out. If I have enough of this clay to go around the sides of that lid, that's what I'd like to do. Because I would like to do a 3D butterfly to set on top of this box with the butterflies on top of the lid and the flowers going around the bottom of the box. So if you have little clumps of paint in your paint, you'll know it when you go through, because they will leave a hollow space on your paint, and you know that that design's not in there. Okay, this should pretty much be through here. Everything that was white is now actually called raspberry. And I'm going to gently and slowly grab a hold here on the ends and pull this up. And directly put my silk screen and dunk it in the water. And if my scraper still has a lot of paint on it after I wipe it off, I'll put it in the water as well, so it will be clean for next time. Okay, now let's see what we have here. Since I'm getting paint all over my hands, which I don't want working with white clay, you know. But you can see the design. Right here where it looks like the design didn't take in the middle of that butterfly wing, see that white streak? That's my line that I drew, knowing where my box lid was going. That looks like the only one that actually interrupted a design. And it's not going to bother my design on my box because that's where the lid was. So this is wet paint obviously on here. Do not touch it. Leave everything alone. Let it completely dry, and I mean completely dry, not just to the touch. It needs to dry. Some clays do not accept water well. So acrylic paint's a water-based paint. So you need to make sure that, number one, you can use water on the clay brand you're using. This is Sculpey Prima, so there's no problem with that. But I'm going to let this sit about an hour before I even try to remove it. And then until I'm ready to use it, I'm going to set it in a flat spot. And I'm not going to put anything over top of it, because sometimes pieces of plastic like this that were protected may stick to the paint. Cling wrap is a really bad thing to put on it, because it will pull the paint right back off. Parchment paper you can get by with as long as everything's absolutely dry. But I try to use my silk screens up as quickly as I do them. So let me let this dry to where I can move it, and then we'll come back and I'll do the flowers around the bottom. And meanwhile I'll decide what clay I'm going to use and what color I'm going to use. Okay. I decided to do the bottom of the box in black. It'll have a white top and black sides on the bottom. It's going to have my floral silk screen. And I've decided I'm going to do this one with mica powders. Some things you can use on silk screens, some you can't. And you can't use all things on all silk screens. All silk screens are not made equal. So make sure that you're buying good silk screens. I'm going to use Flamingo Pink. This is a Pearl X. I'm using a little eyeshadow applicator that you can buy in packs. And I'm going to rub it into the silk screen. You can use a brush, but it needs to be sort of a soft one. I just prefer using the sponge tip with the mica powders because number one, it doesn't want to come back out. It's not like paint. And I will leave some lighter spaces because I have another mica powder. It's from Christy Friesen. And I just love it. It just adds that sparkle. And I saw some places on here that I thought rhinestones may look nice. So I thought maybe I'd save a couple of the inside places in the flowers to do the glamour. And my box sides are only about an inch tall, and they're I think 3 inches long, so I can cut this and get strips out of it to fit my box. And like I said, I'm pressing a little bit hard, and when I get this completely finished, I'm actually going to burnish it lightly. So the mica powders will stay on the silk screen because I'm going to have to manipulate it enough to cut it and get it onto my box before I bake it. So I want to make sure that my mica powders are on there and they're not going to smudge around. And if some places are lighter and some places are darker, that's okay. As long as your design's there and shows up. Sometimes it looks cool if it's more of a vintage look to it or a shabby chic look to it. And you can determine that by how much mica powder you put on. Your clay's like everything else. It's only going to hold so much product. So putting on layers and layers and layers of product usually not a good thing to do. And especially when you're working with designs and stuff like silk screens or stencils or things, just adding layers creates more problems than it does good. And especially when you go to seal it, if you have too much gold or silver leafing, the imitation leafing on something, or you have mica powders, or even pan pastels isn't so bad because they have more pigment and they stick to the clay a little bit better. But sometimes your sealer will seep underneath your product and lift it up, even once it's baked and cured. Even a resin product can do that. And so make sure you have only what your clay is going to hold, and not too much mica powders or chalk pastels or whatever you're using, which you can use chalk pastels with silk screens. Let me put a little bit more pink over here. And but just I've never tried using an alcohol ink on a silk screen. I've painted the silk screen, done a silk screen with acrylic paint, and then I have added alcohol inks in the design. I've done it before they were baked, and I've done it after they were baked. It's really cool to do a silk screen design and then take deep shine and alcohol inks or micro glitter and mix with the deep shine and paint with it. I have several videos on my channel. I did them for the design team, and I'll put them on my channel, of how to use deep shine with alcohol inks and micro glitter and actually paint with them. And it's really cool. So mica powder usually does not blend together like pan pastels. So we'll see what this looks like. I just really wanted to, you can see the difference where I'm putting the glamour and the shimmer of the mica powder. This glamour is just really a gorgeous mica powder, I'm telling you. And I'm just going to add it in some places, and we'll see if it picks it up. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I know I've already got the pink down there, and I don't know if it will hold together or not. We'll see. But can you see these little circles in these flowers that rhinestones just look wonderful in? And Tiny Pandora's got a beautiful, beautiful selection of rhinestones in tinypandora.com in all different shapes, sizes, colors. They're gorgeous. Everybody needs some sparkle in their life, so between mica powders and rhinestones, you can get it. Okay, I'm just going to take a piece of parchment paper, and we'll lightly burnish this. And remember, I'd put my clay down to my glass surface. Made sure there wasn't any air trapped in any place. I put my silk screen down on top of the clay. Made sure there wasn't any air trapped anywhere. And I've actually, surprisingly, I have silk screened, and I have done stencil work with mica powders on light switch covers for my bathroom, of all places. And they've been there 5 years with no sealer, and the mica powder did not come off. And I believe it's because I burnished it on so well. Okay, the same thing. Pick it up by the corners on an end, and slowly pick it up and peel it back. Oops. And you see what's there. instantly. I'm going to put my silk screen in warm water, even though it's mica powders on there. Luckily, this doesn't have to dry like the paint does, but I am going to let it sit for a while. The next time we get together, I will be covering this box and showing you how to do a wood project. If you have any questions, leave them below in the comments, or you can find me in the group HOP, Hooked on Polymer. I'm in there a lot. You can Facebook message me. I'll get back with you. Or at the end of this video, you'll have my email address. You can send me an email and I'll help you any way I can. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. And silk screening, as you see, gives you a gorgeous design. And it didn't take that much work. So until next time, blessings.